matters. So let's acknowledge that part. But for me, prosperity is as close to zero friction between ideas that are in your head and they translate into things in the real world. And that's packing a lot. So you realize that, especially as an entrepreneur, when you start, there's a high friction between you woke up one day, you're like, what if we could do this, and actually doing it. But as you go along the journey, it gets easier. Prosperity is you've gotten to a point where you can wake up and say, you know what, I think we can solve the energy problem in Ghana if we adopt nuclear energy. And you have the network, you have the resources, the finance to make the calls and everything and say, basically in a matter of months, we can set up a nuclear plant and then address energy crisis. Once that friction is close to zero, to me, that's prosperity. That encapsulates all of it for me.
Thank you very much. Dr. Hephzi.
Yes, so it may mean different things to different people, because I think based on what stage you may be on your prosperity journey, there'll be different angles that you're addressing. But fundamentally, I would say it comes with freedom of mind. So where you're comfortable and confident in a place where you can make informed decisions towards growth and contribution in the spaces that you find yourself in. And that is how I would summarize prosperity and what it means.
Freedom of mind. Irabna.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good, because I lost my voice. This is a miracle. Like, it's something for people to hear my voice. But for me, I think of it, for me as a person, I think I've done something. Organization that we are building, and then as a country. And because as human beings we have insatiable needs, prosperity for me, it's a journey. It's not one place that you get to. For me, anything that moves me in the direction of what I believe to be my life's purpose, it's part of prosperity for me. And what do I think my life's purpose is? I have come to the point where I realize it is creating Africa's self-belief. So anything that I do that leads me in that direction, I feel prosperous. For the organizations that I'm building, when I think of prosperity, it has to do with the fact that every stakeholder must be significantly better because of the work that we do. So whether it's the employees, to the communities, to customers, that everyone should be significantly better because of the work that we do. Now, when I think of prosperity as a nation, for some strange reason, the image that I have, who has watched that movie 300? 300, Leonidas, he's charging his men and he's like, Spartans, what is our profession? And they say, ahu, ahu, ahu. And they didn't have to use words, but in that moment, the war was won, like they had won it. When I think of prosperity for us as a people, I hope that someday when we say, Africans, what is our profession? We have something that we say, we win, or whatever it is. And for me, that is prosperity, that belief in ourselves.
Africans, what's our transformation and what's our prosperity? We need to get one before we leave here. Do you agree with me? We will get one before we leave here. Thank you very much, Irabna. Sydney.
Yes.
What does prosperity mean to you?
All right, so I'm going to be doing this a lot because people who usually listen to my seminars always say he has a way of bringing in a memory verse. And I'll do that today, so forgive me. But for me, my definition or my understanding of prosperity all these years has been guided by what Apostle Paul wrote in his letter to Gaius in 3 John chapter 1, verses 2, when he was saying that I wish that in above all things you do well in your health and in your soul. So for me, what it means is that prosperity is looking at having the resources, like he rightly said. Number 2, being in a state where you are able to do what you want to do. So your health is okay, you are able to, mentally you are stable. And then also when he said your soul, when you look at the soul, even beyond, it goes beyond you, your impact, the thing that you want to achieve. How is it going to affect the people? Is it in a form of values? Is it the right thing? Are you destroying the society? Are you hurting somebody to achieve what you want to do? So whether personally, whether as an organization, whether as a nation, if we look at prosperity under these tenets, it means that we will be right, like she said. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's very interesting because this connects to another truth that we see often in our African workplaces. And we have really strong traditions, but sometimes these traditions really affect or limit our innovation. Example is the fear of challenging authority because you can't speak. How then do we transform this traditional belief that may sometimes limit our growth into empowering organizational behavior? Sydney, I'll come back to you.
Right, thank you. So like you rightly said, it starts from the leadership. I have always held that point of view, that if the leaders start it right, it's easy for everybody to emulate. And the new leadership taught servant leadership, which was, started by Jesus Christ when he said, I am washing your feet, when he did that for the disciples. And he said, and I'm encouraging you to do the same thing. So what it means is if we are doing as a leader, you are able to come down to accept peer review. You are able to open your doors to allow your workers, everybody come to you freely, talk to you. You are able to admit that as a leader, I am a human being. As a CEO, imagine a CEO coming to a meeting and he's saying that I was wrong. The decision I took was wrong. My team, forgive me. How can we do this? It breaks that whole hierarchical order of his, and we are down here. So for me, I believe the easiest way is the leadership realigning and redesigning the whole thing. Then the people down being able to sink into it.
That's interesting. Irabna, I want to come to you, but before then, Sydney said something that resonates with me. I think that week or two, I had a colleague who was saying her next in command said something that she didn't agree with, and it's been going on for some time. And she still stood her ground that she wasn't agreeing with her. So the other manager, who is the next in command superior, approached my friend. And after listening to her, she realized my friend was right. But you know what she said? She's your manager, so I can't go and tell her. So you do what she wants you to do. And this is really preventing us from being innovative. How then do we handle it, as I said?
So for me, piggybacking on what Sydney said, leadership, yes. And leadership's one biggest role is setting the vision and making it very clear. And once that's done, then the litmus test for everything we do is, this thing we are about to do, is it leading us to that vision? As a people, we often say things and say, oh, that's our tradition. But there are many things we think are tradition, which is not true, we're taught. So for example, if you go way back in our past, the role of women in our societies, women were the lawmakers, asasiya, we learned patriarchy. And now we've embraced it so much that we use these things to say, this is how we do it. And it's important that we go back and see what are the parts of our tradition that, first of all, were not even ours to start with, that are not serving us. And I have to say, as a Christian, that I know that Christianity played a role in us demonizing some of our traditions. And I think that as African Christians, we have to go back and see which part of the Christianity that we were taught was intentionally put in there by people whose main role or goal was enslavement, and to reject those parts. But yeah, these are the things that come to mind.
We need to go back, right? That means we have a lot to do.
Oh, we have work to do.
Yeah, we have a lot to do. Darlington.
Yeah. It becomes apparent in the things you do, right? So I agree with everything that has been said. It's not what you say, it's what you do. So I'll give maybe a few examples. Yesterday at the office, we're having a debate over So in our world in AI, there's something we call AGI, which is AI that matches human intelligence. So we had a debate in the office, which was basically me against everyone. And we moderated it. People stood there and said, Darlington, you are wrong. Your argument is terrible and all of that. And last week we had a new national service personnel that was joining our team. So they called me Sir Darlington. And then the others laughed at the young gentleman. They're like, no one calls him Sir Darlington, you just call him Darlington. Stop all the trying to be extra respectful and polite. We don't do that around here. And so I've seen that happen when people come in with a perspective that you need to respect that hierarchy. But if they look around and they realize that, oh, there is some sort of sense, some sort of, it's not an aspiration, but it's gotten to a point where basically if you take our team, our engineering team, we don't even have titles. So for example, we don't have senior, mid-level, junior, none of that. We just have members of the engineering team. And when we are implementing different projects, so sometimes the most junior person is the lead on a certain project because they just happen to know more about that particular topic or what we are implementing more than anyone else. So it's all these little things that you do. Don't create a scenario where the only way to talk to me is that you need to go as a junior person that just came in, talk to the mid-level person talks to senior talks to team lead, and then they talk to manager and it goes to your executive assistant. No, just say anyone can just walk up to my office, knock and walk in and say, I don't like what we are doing as a company. Or we have company meetings and someone went on a heartfelt rant saying that, Darlington, I don't think you appreciate the work that we do. I spent all night working on this. And we had a heated back and forth on the results and everything. But making it okay that you can critique what I do, and I don't hold it against you. Right in that moment, after we had that discussion, we went back, we came to a solution and realized, okay, you are putting in effort, but we didn't get a certain result. So you don't just say it, you need to break down those barriers. It's the actions that demonstrate that.
It's the actions that demonstrates that. Whilst you are speaking, I saw some people going like, yeah. I'm sure they are saying, I wish the same in my organization. It would be same soon. Don't worry. Dr. Hephzi.
Yes, so, I opened initially with freedom of mind. And so effective change is not easy. And so where you are in organizational settings where the culture of the organization has been embedded into, the workforce, the employees, etc., it would never be an overnight affair. And so it's picking time, picking moments, and if you decide this is a battle you want to change in terms of the mindset and the culture, then it can't be tiring, but you're willing to go the whole way. So again, practical example, currently one thing that I am very passionate about and I'm looking to change, it's institution contains selling what I call sugar water. And so we can't be teaching, the crisis of let's say diabetes, but then the only option available to students to purchase is sugar water, right? But then initially, you get the kickback of budgets and what's available, et cetera, but at least you drop the seed of people listening. And so it goes with that freedom of mind and being open-minded as well. So leadership may have their vision, they might have the initial, this is where I want the organization to go. If you're open-minded to taking feedback, perhaps there was something that you had missed and something that was not priority to you, so it didn't cross your mind. If you're open-minded to then take in feedback and have open door policies so people feel comfortable coming in and engaging in that conversation, it's another way towards effecting that change. And also coming from my leadership position where I come from an environment where, or grew up in the time where I didn't have the WhatsApp numbers of those in authority, my lecturers, etc. And you come into an environment where so you have, your student hours, your class times, and people start messaging you privately. And I'm thinking, why are you in my WhatsApp? But over time, again, it comes back to open-mindedness, and not everything about culture is negative. And so when you understand the systems and environments are different, you can then, with your open-mindedness, decipher the advantages and disadvantages, the positives, the negatives, and how best you can navigate those boundaries so that you encourage the good aspects of culture and not be like a brick wall where this is what it needs to be and we can't move away from that. So yes.
Thank you very much. Not everything about culture is negative. So if you have such an open mind, it helps you to see the positive aspects of culture. Sydney.
Yeah.
Dr. Hephzi just led us straight into this other question that I want to ask. That culture, we often describe it as that invisible operating system. We don't see it in a way. It's not something you can see that this is culture, just like we can see everybody here. But from your experience, how can leaders intentionally design cultures that will enable performance and prosperity?
All right, thank you. I think it's better now. Yeah. So what I would say is, when she was speaking, she mentioned something that I always like, clarity. For me, I always believe that when people know what they are supposed to do, when people know what they are about, it makes it easy to achieve the goals. For example, I was fortunate in my banking career to rise early. So I became virtually the youngest branch manager, which was very strange in a way, because the age gap was well over 8 years. And now these are people that had done banking in a particular way. And you young guy, you are coming in with a different energy, different anything. So you need to retune, you need to do it in a way such that they respect the authority. You also make sure you're also not stepping on toes. So what you needed to do was clearly define what you wanted the whole team to achieve and how are we going to go about it. And then also you need to be prepared to receive constructive criticism. And I'm using constructive in a way, because sometimes if you're not careful, you may be moved out of it, the goal, because we say, oh, accept criticism as a leader, accept, then things that are shifting you off course, you're accepting. You also need to be prepared to have an open door. I was excited when he said it, when he was speaking, that you don't need to go through all the hurdles to meet him. You need to have an open door. What I mean by that is one that allows for feedback, one that allows for communication between you and the team. Not like entirely, it's like team meetings, no. Like one that, because I remember clearly that the first day I went to my office and I said that I'm going to have an open door. I don't like manager. I remember clearly I literally had them remove the door from my office, so that when I was there, the door was open, so that everybody could know that, our manager is sitting there, I can come to him to share some of these things that I am feeling. Yes, and critically for me, again, is looking at the people. Because remember in primary, I said culture is a way of life. So the way of life is the people. So no matter what you want to implement, it's the people that are going to implement it. So if you don't have the people in the heart of it, you don't care about them, you are not concerned about their personal lives, you are not concerned about their development, you are not concerned about the goals that you are setting, how it's going to affect them, then it becomes very, very difficult to achieve that. Thank you.
I like what you said, that when you took up your role, you had to move the door. I encountered a Gen Z, and he said, we say we have open door policy, but you go and the boss has closed the door, and you are wondering, hey, can I knock? Can I wait? And then you just go back to your seat. So which one is the open door policy? And I'm so sure if the person is here, said, Amanda, I told you. And you said something which is, when you started your banking career, banking is done in a particular way, and here you are, a young person you want to change certain aspects of it. And we've all heard this, whether we like it or not. Don't challenge authority. That's not how it's done. You are too young to lead. Be humble. And sometimes the be humble makes us so invisible. Like, some people are smiling. They said, yeah. And sometimes it's not really said aloud. You wouldn't really go to an organization that will tell you be humble. It's not done this way. But it's there in the tone, in the policies. It's in the silence that your manager or your superior or your colleague is quite listening to you, but you can read it from their eyes. That enkasa, which is don't talk. You are too young. Dr. Hephzi, I come back to you. how does the language we use every day, like be humble, you are too young, don't talk when an elderly person is speaking, we hear this often. How does this language either reinforce old limitation or really unlock innovation and prosperity? I like that. Can you do that again?
It's a lot to unpack with this one. So I suppose if there's one thing that has not done our culture any favors, it's language. And the language that almost comes from, I guess, the home initially, and then those we look up to outside the home, through school, the authorities that come our way, the older siblings, etc., etc. And it's through no fault of all those who came before us, because it's the same language that has been passed down to them. And so unless the individual becomes conscious of the impact of language and proactively look to change the language around towards positive reinforcement in whatever context that may be, and unfortunately is the biggest hurdle or challenge that we have to overcome. I don't have the answers outside individuals being conscious and flipping language around, so there's still, the message is still conveyed, but the way it's packaged is reinforcing and it's encouraging rather than what we see a lot today, right from school to the workplaces to the homes, where it seems humility has been overhumbled.
Humility has been overhumbled. You're right. And I think for what you said, which is we need to be conscious of the impact of language, I think we need to give a round of applause to the convener of this Bold New Normal conference for choosing such a theme about culture. Oh, you're not doing it very well for her. Or because she's not on the stage with me. For really choosing this topic or this theme about culture and language, because you realize that when growing up, you talk too much. And then the person goes up and is a bit timid. Oh, you are too timid. What do you want her to do? Because you started by saying you talk too much. So the person called. And then she went ahead to not to talk, and now we are saying, you are too timid. We get confused. But a place like this, a conference like this, gives us that opportunity and that reawakening for us to know that, look, some cultures, languages, yes, they've done us some good, but some we need to really retract from it if we really want to progress and transform. Darlington, from your work in technology, what's that one phrase or piece of organizational language that you believe that African workplace need to retire from? And what would you replace it with? I have another from you.
No, that's quite loaded. So maybe one that I really have a problem with, that I have a long story that I won't go into, but you know when they say, when people tell their fellow colleagues, at the company, oh papa dear.
Yeah.
I hate that with passion, right? And when we started the company, there was a version of the team that we had, which I take full responsibility of, where I was too allowing of letting the culture evolve into whatever evolved. I didn't have full control of it, and it eroded and became this corrupt thing, where basically the best worker, you have the other saying, are you trying to make us all look bad? It ended up with me firing basically the entire team and starting all over again. And I promised myself from that point on never to make that mistake, right? There needs to be a sense of ownership. You don't bring in people who, the nature of work we do, especially if you are trying to solve issues in healthcare and some of these tough spaces, you want people who are doing it out of passion, dedication. There's a sense of mission. It's not I clock in and I clock out, right? I found out some time ago that there are people that have been staying in the office for like 3 months. Not because they were told to, because they realized that why go home and come back if I can just stay and keep working? And they didn't even feel the need to tell me. It's just this is what they were passionate about, right? And so I realized that sense of saying that, hey, oh, papa dear, it's really, really dangerous. And we have that to be honest, okay, maybe I get a bit provocative. I think the Ghanaian work culture is one of the worst in the world. It's terrible. Terrible work culture, and we see it all the time. Look, I had a minister of ICT in a Caribbean country, right? He wanted kaftans. And so we are friends and everything, and he's like, oh, I like your kaftan. Can you put me in touch with anyone that can design and make them for me in Ghana? We'll talk about it. So then he was like, oh, the Nigerians charge too much. I think the Ghanaians, I mentioned a range of prices and everything. Then I met a young designer, and I was like, oh, literally video called the minister whilst he was like, meeting the prime minister or something. It's like, oh, that, and I'm like, oh, this is a brilliant designer. Look at all this amazing outfit and everything. This designer never followed up. He just, it's like, oh, I have a lot of, and I'm like, do you see the opportunity you just wasted? Right? Because they are trying to bridge a connection between the Caribbeans and Africa. You could have had the opportunity to go and do this for so many people. They didn't care. And I see this all the time. The work culture is terrible. Nigerians have way better work culture than we do because of this sense of saying that you're just going through the motion. It's like we do Hakuna Matata. Like, don't worry, just go through it. Why are you in a hurry? It's really, really terrible. There's no sense of drive. If there's one thing we can let go, from the bosses down to everyone in company, there needs to be a sense of urgency, a sense of ownership. Our politics even suffers from this. It's not that we don't have ideas on how to solve problems in Ghana. It's just there's no sense of urgency in solving them. That's the one thing that I think we should retire.
There's no sense of urgency, and I really agree with you on this. And sometimes as leaders, right, we are quick to blame our subordinates, to say there's no sense of urgency from them. But as a leader, you need to approve certain documents for the subordinate. The subordinate sends an email, and so you should have called me. I didn't see it. Okay, follow up. We agree you are busy. Follow up again. The person comes to follow up. You are teaching that subordinate that sense of urgency. So you realize that now when it flips, when we find ourselves as leaders, we are quick to rather now say the subordinate or the younger person or the person who is lower in rank than you is not really pulling. But earlier on, as we said, it starts from leadership. And culture, you need to be intentional about it. You need to intentionally design. You can't leave it for anybody. So if you don't intentionally design it, then everybody leaves their own way. Irabna, it also comes to you with I come to you with the same thing, especially from the creative industry. What's that one piece of advice or one piece of phrase from organizational language that you believe African workplace need to retire? I like the smile.
I say Bibini. Usually it's Bibini, black man.
Okay.
And that is a full book that has been written. Bibini, black man. We have so many of them. And yes, Ejumano Papa Dia. I wish I spoke other languages apart from Chichu. Ejumano Papa Dia. Nimpa beye bi, wambeye nina, okafu didi. So I'm in a group with other African creatives, and I asked them to share if they also had examples. And there were some examples that came. The one that shocked me was the Tunisians don't see themselves as Africans. They see themselves more as Arabs. But although they don't have the color of our skin, what they say is, if you want the thing to be destroyed, give it to an Arab. And I was shocked. My African-American friend tells me their version is that the white man's ice is colder. ISO. The white man's ice is colder than our ice. So it's,
our ice is what?
Apparently, our ice is not as cold as the white man's ice. But like we've said, language is passed down. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, it's things we say. Someone heard someone say, Nimpa beyebi, wambeye nina, and that's why they also went somewhere and said it. What I'm trying to do with my team is to now intentionally create new language that we share. So I'll read, we have a manifesto, and when the going gets tough, go outside, it's written on the wall, and we read it together, and with your permission, I'll read it. We are a team of passionate high performers, united by a shared belief of a prosperous Africa. We are committed to the highest standards of excellence. We show up here to inspire each other to greatness. And each day, we take one more step towards our vision of building Africa's most loved brand. The work we do creates opportunities for millions around the world. This is the energy that keeps us going. One day, it will be said that legends worked here, and generations to come will continue what we have started. It's my way of trying to replace Nipa Beye Biwambeye Nina intentionally.
One day it will be said that legends worked here. And for the sake of people here who can't really understand the tree, so some of the sayings, which is "Eyo papa dia," is to say is that a job belongs to your father. So you'll be working and another colleague, you are giving all your best, and it feels why the job belongs to your father, so you are giving all your best, and that doesn't even inform or push anybody to give. And there's this other saying, which is "Nipa beye bi wambeye nina." It's okay, you came to do small, you do that you're small and leave. Let's leave the rest for somebody else. So at the end of the day, you go to work, or even at home, or in your community, you just want to do the least, so that you leave the rest for someone else. These are some of the sayings or the languages. And the last one, which Irabna said, which is "Okafo Didi." Sometimes they'll say, let me just use it, the president even owes, he's even eating. And you are here. Do the thing anyhow. These are some of the sayings we say every now and then, and subconsciously, it's there. So the moment we encounter ourselves in our organization, in our home, and wherever we find ourselves, the subconscious now tells your conscience that, remember, the job is not for your father. So you are not aware of it, but because that's what you fed your subconscious with, automatically, it's seen in everything that you do. And hearing from your bios and during the introduction, one way or the other, we are all engaging in the global space. So, Sydney, I'll start with you. What one action have you taken to unlearn the internalized belief and help you build confidence, especially to go on the global space, so that we can learn from?
All right, thank you. So I'm still going to make reference because I think that period in my life was one of the toughest challenges, like when I became the youngest manager. Like they were saying, it was like a certain thing builds over time. Culture takes time, consistency. So gradually, it becomes inherent in them. One thing that I adapted then, and I still do, is the real language. Having worked for somebody for a period and becoming an entrepreneur myself, I realized that when people have a sense of shared ownership, when people begin to feel that, okay, when you create that in mind, they tend to, contribute more to make, performance better. So I personally avoid whenever there's a discussion. What are we doing? What's the way forward, guys? What plans? What can we do? What do we think about this? What's the way? So that they begin to feel that, okay, it's not just 27th salary or payday alert. Now it's our company. What's the way forward? So now you are there and people are going and bringing you ideas that, I think this company is doing this. We should also do that. I think this company is doing this, or maybe we should do this. So I think when we embrace the real language, it's one of the driving factors that can help accelerate this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hephzi. Same question as Sydney. What's that one thing that you've internalized that has helped you build confidence to the global space?
Yeah. So for me, it always comes back to the mindsets and coincidentally the language. And Lucy might not remember this, but we had one Zoom call when I invited her to be one of my mentors. And she says, we don't meet anywhere near enough. But from that one conversation, I have two girls. And I think it was navigating around, I suppose, my career. And I was guiding them as to things that they could consider. You were like 4 years old. I'm one of those moms. But I made a comment about, I don't want them to go into science because it's one of those public service jobs, right? We don't have money when people keep coming to me. And then she made a comment about, why would you say that, right? So it's almost, listening to yourself and someone challenging those mindset beliefs and the language and things that we use and we say. But because most people in my sector every day, we have a lot of conversations about, if anyone had told me science was a public service job, I may have considered that. Maybe join the tech people, that's where the money is, right? And so it comes to intentionality and being self-conscious and open-minded to reflect on the various, we all go to a lot of conferences, events, have conversations with the girl groups, the boy groups, our schoolmates, etc., etc. Without intentionality to see the almost nuggets or useful points that come out of some of these conversations, we're all going to keep going about our daily lives without any change and growth, etc. So I have grown a lot personally. I'm still in a growth journey, and it started with having that open mindset to then be able to listen open-minded and not just throw out anything that anyone says because it's not in line with your values and what you have grown up with.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Darlington, I'll come back to Dr. Hephzi. We currently find ourselves in the most multi-generational workplace. And you've said some of these things already. As the younger generations are entering the workforce with new expectation of what respect is, what flexibility is, what purpose is, and especially with our Gen Zs, our millennials, and the soon Gen Alphas, which are more than the Gen Zs. Flexibility. I've come to work 8, 5. Why do you need me here from 8 to 5 if I can do this thing when I'm sitting home? How then do we stay relevant and have that inclusivity so that we'll be able to accommodate all these generations for them to appreciate and for us to also understand them in our organization?
So, it's interesting because sometimes to achieve a goal, you set some sort of proxy for that goal. And then sometimes if you're not careful, you forget the goal and become too focused on the proxy. A somewhat funny example is, why do you have to cut your hair when you go to school in Ghana? To the best of my knowledge, it actually started because there was like a lice outbreak like 2 or 3 decades ago. When you ask most schools, it's like, it's because of discipline. Everyone has to be disciplined. But that's not what, so it was started for one reason. We've actually forgotten the reason. There's no lice outbreak. We've just now held on to it. And so that's what you want to avoid. Why do you, as a leader, bring together people? Is to accomplish a goal, right? I remember someone on my team said that before joining our team, they had some experience working both in Ghana and then Dubai. They've seen the corporate culture and everything. Then they came to our office, and the first thing they saw was me literally in shorts, barefooted, walking in the office. And they're like, what the hell is going on here? Because it doesn't matter. Like, whether you come wearing suit or you are in shorts or, you painted your hair blue, we don't care. That's not why we are here. We're here to build solutions that are actually solving problems in healthcare, in agriculture. So always go back to what is the main mission, what is the reason why you are there. If some Gen Alpha comes and then they speak in a certain language, or they are in your Slack group, and they are not using formal language, and they are using all their, weird languages they use online, so what? Who cares, right? What is the reason why they are there? So you need to always come back to that. But then on the same level, a lot of people might not like this. I am anti 100% remote work, by the way. Okay. We've run that experiment a couple of times. It doesn't work. Which comes back to the other point. Sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? The beauty of people coming together is all the unplanned moments. They call it water cooler moments. It's those things that you bump into someone whilst walking and you started cracking a joke, then it leads to an idea, and the next thing blossoms. You can't recreate that online. So my point being that allow room for focusing on what the goal is. Let people bring in their peculiarities. Let the culture evolve as new people come in with ideas. Stick to what is the primary focus. Don't get deviated by all the proxies. But at the same time, there are certain components that you should not just veer off. Because if you veer off of them, then it corrupts the culture. And it's super tricky. I don't think there's any perfect manual that guides you through this process. Sometimes you lean too much on one side, then you realize that you've made things too open and it's corrupting things. And sometimes you realize that you are too rigid. So you always have to be introspective and always bring yourself back to the core of saying that, okay, do I need to change on this? Do I need to be restrictive on this? That is your duty as a leader, to keep making those decisions.
Thank you very much. Get ready with your questions as I take the last question from Irabna. Irabna, you often talk about empowerment through entrepreneurship. So how can creative industries lead the way in redefining prosperity for the new generation of Africa?
So I'll tell two quick questions. Sorry. On 6th December 2001, the White House, led by then President Bush, invited Hollywood for a meeting. Why? 9/11 had happened. And President Bush knew the power of the arts in shaping how America would be viewed by America herself, but also the rest of the world. So from then on, we started seeing certain types of movies where there's always an American superhero who is winning. And the more we watched it as Africans, the more we wanted to leave Africa. But that's not the point. The second story is I'm a very late bloomer when it comes to driving. I only recently started driving. And the worst thing to do is to start driving when you are old and when you know the price of all the car spare parts, where you know every scratch, how much it will cost you. So I was in that position. But the one song that kept me going many times when I almost stopped was, I wish I could say someone should guess. Keep your eyes on the road. Da, 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 da. And it was ringing. Every time I see there's a car, hey, should I just park and run away? I hear Reggie Rockstone in my ears. Keep your eyes on the road. The point I'm making is art for me is spiritual. It's powerful. We preach sermons with art without having to hold a microphone. Like when I'm walking in town with these cowries on my head, the kind of conversations, immediately people are calling me, hey, Mama Africa, where are you from? And the funny thing is, the more Ghanaian I dress, the more people can't believe I'm from here. But as African creatives, I think that we hold, it's a huge responsibility that we have. First, to understand the history that we come from, and also know with that history, the work that we have. It's work that we need to take very seriously. So for example, when we are creating clothes, when we are making an outfit for Lucy today to stand in front of all of you and help us shape the bold new normal that we all want for Africa, what do we create for her? Because clothing, it's a tool. We can make an outfit that makes someone step in a room and feel powerful. My friend was how whenever he's on a global stage, he needs to be wearing something made here. It's just like how footballers sometimes, you see them, they run onto the field and they grab a piece of the soil. They are reminding themselves of who they are. They are grounding themselves. And as African creatives, we need to be aware that that's what we do for our people. We give them something that can remind them of who they are. And I'll go back to the 300, the Spartan. What is our profession? And if at any point in time as Africans we have a rallying cry that reminds us that we have a continent to build, the African creative holds a really, really important part in making that happen.
Thank you very much, Irabna. Can we please give it a round of applause to our panelists?